Yeah, we're recording. Why don't you introduce yourself? We'll start there.
I'm Corin Tomlinson from Nottingham, England. I'm a second-generation bonsai artist over here at the moment for the 8th National Bonsai Exhibition in Rochester, New York. This last weekend just gone. I've been lucky enough to be invited over to be one of the guest demonstrators and judges. And so I've been working a little bit Saturday, Sunday, and now it's a day or two after, and got a little bit of downtime before I fly back. So we're just sat here in the sun, having a chat.
Yeah, to paint a picture for those who aren't here, we are sitting on a shady patch of lawn, sitting right across from Bill Valavanis' amazing bonsai collection, and apart from a cicada in the distance, it's pretty much just absolutely perfect weather, and we've got a lot of really pretty trees in front of us, if you can imagine that.
Yeah, it's pretty tranquil. All the old Japanese maples in the garden, and we can just see several bonsai masterpieces from where we're sat.
Exactly.
It's not a bad place to be, is it?
I'm pretty happy right here. So you already made me think of one thing to mention, which is the second generation. How many of your early childhood memories involved little trees around the garden?
Well, for those of you who don't know, my father was Harry Tomlinson, so he was a self-taught bonsai professional, world-renowned through his teaching and also primarily through his books that he authored, but the complete book of bonsai. And he bought a bonsai nursery. Well, he bought a nursery. It wasn't a bonsai nursery. He bought a nursery when I was about 6 years old. He'd got a proper job. He worked in an office, and when he got to a certain age, decided he didn't want to work in an office. So he'd bought this old nursery. He used to grow conifers and heathers, and we did hanging baskets in summer. We did Christmas trees at Christmas, and over the years, he started doing bonsai trees, teaching bonsai. It was a kind of hobby that got out of hand, and then eventually we managed to stop doing all the other associated trees and things that we're not really interested in, and just concentrated on bonsai. So I've grown up on a bonsai nursery since I was 6. A lot of people always ask me if I've always wanted to do bonsai. That's a strange question. It's a question I get asked a lot. It's a strange question for me to answer, because bonsai is so niche. If I didn't grow up on a bonsai nursery, I wouldn't have just decided to do bonsai. I think I liken it very much to the fact, if you're a farmer's son, you grew up on a farm, and someone said to you, "Did you always want to be a farmer?" Your answer would be, "Well, I am a farmer. I've always been a farmer." Unless you rebel and you want to run off and, to the big city lights and become an accountant or something like that, then, if you're 10-year-old and you live on a farm, you're tall enough to drive a tractor, then that's what you're probably doing. Yeah, and I think I was more that sort of situation. I wasn't forced into it. Admittedly, my dad was a big believer in child labour, so he might have led me into it a little bit, but and guided me along. So yeah, that's how I end up being a second generation bonsai artist, which is very, very unusual in the Western world.
It is. I'm a third generation nurseryman, but not bonsai.
Okay.
My grandfather bought a nursery the year my dad was born, and my dad is still working at that nursery to this day. And God forbid I do that work, so now I've got my own nursery with these smaller trees.
Yeah.
But yeah, I worked there going through high school.
Oh, right.
So I still grew up taking care of plants. And
Yeah.
I was propagating in grade school, actually.
That sounds like me, taking cuttings and weeding trees and
definitely
that sort
weeding,
of thing.
watering.
Weeding, sweeping up, tidying up, mowing the lawns, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Did you go through big phases where you stayed away from bonsai, or was it always a pretty comfortable fit?
No, I never stayed away from it. When I left school at 16, I did a national diploma in horticulture for 3 years, because obviously, for those of you that practice bonsai, it's a blend of art and horticulture, and you need the horticultural aspect because you need to be able to keep your trees alive. You need the artistic eye so that you can shape them, style them, make them look as majestic and as beautiful as you can. But it's a blend of both of those elements. So for that reason, I went to college to do a diploma, and then in conjunction with that, I did around a 3-year bonsai apprenticeship.
Ah, tell us about that.
It's probably one of the reasons I'm back over here in the US, because I was lucky enough to do my bonsai apprenticeship with Bill Valavanis here in Rochester at the International Bonsai Arboretum. So spent some time with him, quite a bit of time. I also spent a few months working with Chase Aid, and I was also very, very fortunate enough to have many one-to-one sessions with Yuji Yoshimura when I was over here, and that was a few years back now. That was early 90s, I guess, when I was over here, and I've been over since. So now I'm sitting here looking at trees that I remember them when they looked great when they were 30 years old, and now they're 60-year-old,
yep.
and they look even better. But
yeah.
I still remember the trees, so it's been good to have a look around Bill's garden and kind of reacquaint myself with some trees that I remember from my time here as a bonsai apprentice.
Was it the same house, or was he in a different place?
Same.
Well, I know it's burned down twice.
Yeah, this is why I was
then.
hesitant. Yeah, same place,
same
but
garden.
But he's gone through about 3 houses. So
Yeah.
hopefully he's not going to go through any more. Yeah, it's been unfortunate to have a couple of house fires, but he's very fortunate enough that not both times it didn't spread to his trees.
Yeah.
So the garden isn't too far from his house. But the same site, when I was here before, that across the road was just a cornfield, and that's how I remember it. And even the last time I was here, there was now houses built on it, and I know there are.
Yeah.
That sort of isn't in my memory. I can't really remember that, even though I've seen it. So when I'm driving round, stuff's familiar but also different.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit strange, but times have moved on. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. The memory keys in really well to some aspects, and others, I know you were there, but it's not ringing any bells.
Yeah, and just being here again, some people, I perhaps last saw them 30 years ago, so there's still people that remember when I was here, when I was maybe, I don't know, probably 18 or 19.
Kid.
Doing my bonsai
that's
apprenticeship. It's good.
And did you just go straight into it from there?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I wasn't here. I was here for a few years, and I didn't get back home and asked my dad if I could have a year off. I got back home, and he just put me to work. So so I got back home and started working in the shop at Greenwood Bonsai Studio. In the shop, working on trees, and at that time assisting my father doing his, with his teaching and that sort of thing, and then till I started travelling more extensively myself, doing demonstrations, and I took over the teaching at Greenwood Bonsai, and about 15 years ago I actually took the business over entirely, 2008. And then, unfortunately, my father passed away like 6 or 7 years ago, and business has gone from strength to strength, and we're currently having quite a few improvements to the nursery and to the shop, and last year to the teaching studio, so we can continue to grow the business and teach more people and give a better experience to customers and visitors, to the site. So, despite our heritage being very strong, we're trying to still push on and move forward for the future.
It's really remarkable. Your dad started something. There are not many people in the Western world more influential than your dad, between the teaching, the writing. Like back then, there were only so many key figures.
Yeah, there was just
that was your dad that did that.
Yeah, there was a small handful, and that book was just that he did was just so far-reaching, I mean, the distribution of it was just incredible. I mean, I've got over 30 copies of that book in different languages.
Wow.
So it's all right. Obviously there's an English one, there's an American one, but there's Slovakian, Italian, German, French. There's a lot of languages of that book. Well, funny story. Well, there was a big book came out, Complete Book of Bonsai. Then there's a little medium one called the Pocket Encyclopedia of Bonsai. Same book, it kind of shrunk in the wash. Then there was a little one called 101 Essential Tips. Tiny little handbook, sort of thing that's...
Possibly the best-selling bonsai book of all time.
Yeah, it was. It's probably $5 or $6 or something, yeah? So if you were buying a little tree for $30, that's the book you'd buy to just accompany it, yeah?
Yep.
So, you're buying a little tree as a gift for somebody, you want to show them you've made a bit of effort, you get a little, $4 pair of scissors in that book, yeah? And so the little one, 101 Essential Tips, my dad's in China, gone over to buy some bonsai pots, been visiting factories and people over there buying bonsai pots. And whatever town or city we're staying in, he sees a bookshop, goes in and just to have a look, see what bonsai books they've got. He had a big library of bonsai books, thought they might have some he wasn't familiar with. So he's gone in there and there's a tiny little book, and on the cover it's one of his trees. There's a picture of his hands, with a pair of scissors. And he thought, well, that's my book. Obviously, it's all in Chinese. And you open it up, and on the second page, the only English in the entire book, it says Harry Tomlinson.
Wow.
And he's like, that's my book in Chinese. So he comes back to England, shows me a copy of this book, and he's told me this story. He says, he's just dead excited. He's English. My dad's English. He's English. The family were English. All the guys in the family, his parents, they worked down the pits, down the mines, coal mines, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. His father was a keen gardener, and so he's self-taught English bloke, so he says, I found my book in Chinese, and I said, that's cool, that's really good. It's like full circle, isn't it? You've took a Chinese, Japanese, Oriental art form, you've learnt it yourself in England, they've translated it back to Chinese, and then he says, I bought them all. I said, you what? He said, I bought them all. I said, how many did you buy? He said, they had 30 copies. Yeah, so he bought 30 copies. I said, why have you bought 30 copies of your book? He said, well, I thought, and I was working in the shop at the time. He said, I thought you could sell them in the shop. Yeah, and I was like, how am I going to sell 30 copies of your book in Chinese in Nottingham? So if any out there are interested, I've got 29 copies of my dad's book in Chinese left. So... I think he just got a bit carried away with it.
The novelty was just irresistible.
Yeah. I'm just glad the guy hadn't got 100 of them.
Probably the shop owner was scratching his head when the whole transaction.
Probably thought that was a bit weird. Yeah,
not sure where you're going with this, sir, but that's great.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing he did.
Oh. So has Greenwood Bonsai had a specific focus or strength in terms of the trees or styles or sizes, or has it been a pretty general bonsai facility over the years?
It's general. We're one of very, very few places in the UK that are open 7 days a week. You don't need to make an appointment. We're pretty much always open. You can just turn up, wander about, have a look at the trees, and we cater for everyone. So... we're very fortunate. We're lucky enough to have masterpiece bonsai for sale, specimen trees, but we also do young seedling trees, just a few years old. We do beginners trees, we do indoor trees. We basically, if you're going to need it to do bonsai, then we're going to sell it. I only sell stuff that we like, things that we use. If it's a product that we don't really use much and we don't think it's really necessary, I don't stock it for the sake of it. Yep. So I try to rely on sort of proven things that we know work. We might sell 10 different types of compost, but because we use them all.
Yeah.
I could sell 20 different types of compost and soil, but that'd be 10 too many.
Yeah, I pretty much do the exact same thing. I figured out, what do I need? Where can I find these things?
Yeah.
And that feels good to make that available.
Yeah. If it's things that over the years we think, that doesn't really work for us, then we don't bother. Same with the books and stuff. If it's good books, then we stock it. We stock your book. But if it isn't up to scratch, then there's no point selling it. If it's got misinformation in it, there's no point stocking it. But I think our strength is that we do cater to everybody, and it's hard to make a living from bonsai if you narrow it down too much. Some places just sell bonsai, and that isn't enough for us. So it's not a product. We're a business, but with passion behind it, and that's probably the most important thing: the heritage and the passion. Because if you haven't got that, you might as well just run a grocery shop if you just want to sell products. We don't sell products. We sell trees that we've looked after, cared for, to try and find new homes for them. Selling bonsai tree to somebody is like trying to rehome a puppy to somebody. You've looked after it. You want them to continue to do so.
That's right.
And some bonsai shops, it's just a shop. It's products. But we're quite active on the teaching side of it. And again, not all bonsai businesses are fortunate enough to have a bonsai artist involved in it.
Right.
Sometimes it's just a shop, and there's a guy or somebody who's like a shop manager, and they sell supplies, and that's okay, but it's not as good as, in my eyes, it's not as good as having a business that's got an artist at the heart of it, surrounded by managers and whatever.
Well, because you can help people more that way.
Yeah, you're more in tune with what people want, right. And it's another string to the bow, isn't it? You can't just sell trees. Right. You've got to teach and do demonstrations and sell trees and give advice and help people out. I mean, nowadays, myself and my younger brother run the business between us. He tends to be more on the non-tree side of it, deals more with the shop. So if you want to come up and spend money, you're probably more likely to encounter him. If you're coming up and you want to enroll on like classes or teaching, or you want help and advice with your tree, then you're potentially more likely to encounter me.
Well, Bill actually told me something similar. It's funny, Bill's walking, he's like about 20 feet away from us right now.
Yeah.
But he said years ago, because we were asking, do you really need to run a nursery and do the journal and do all the seminars and the education? And he said, no, I can't give any of those up. They all feed each other.
They do.
I need to promote the art and the education through the journal and the awareness.
Yeah.
I need the seminars to teach people and to share the skills and to spread the material. And I need the nursery to provide the material that people need to increase their enjoyment of the art. And they all kind of fed each other.
That's right. They're all symbiotic. You do the teaching because it brings new students in. We've probably enrolled 250 students through our courses in a year. And that's 250 people that don't own a pair of scissors, haven't got a turntable, want to buy some bonsai wire, want to buy a tree, and if I can help them, I've got a shop full of that sort of stuff. But, I'll sell them products that they do want, not products that they don't want. They can buy a tree. And it's about getting them enthusiastic and trying to pass on some of my enthusiasm and passion for bonsai to them, so that they can take it on board. It can become a rewarding hobby for those guys as well.
Well, so here's a question based on that. It's, as hard as it is, it's relatively easy to get people excited and give them that fun first experience, a tree, a pair of scissors, and a class. What do you do for those people when they come back in 6 or 12 months with a question? Well, what do I do now? I'm that 1 in 100 that actually stuck with it. What does step 2 look like?
A better pair of scissors and a better tree at the end of the day. You're going to start with something basic. You buy a pair of scissors for $10. You've got one little tree, you trim it and you enjoy it, and then you get into it and you think, I need a better pair of scissors. Oh, I need a branch cutter now because I've got to cut some branches off, and I want to do some wiring, and I need some wire cutters, and you just assist them with anything they want. Or they're like, they might come up and say, I did that tree on your course, and I want to do a forest planting now. So, perhaps go out to the benches with the young trees on, and they might pick 5 or 7 little young trees and a landscape pot, and they might, they could watch one of my YouTube videos on how to create a group planting, and they can watch that. They've got the material in front of them. They can have a go and create it themselves, and then, then they'll come back again and people get hooked on it. You know yourself.
What's the next project?
Yeah, people get hooked on it. You know, sometimes I've got customers that they come up 2 or 3 times a week. You know, so sometimes it's more like a social club. But they're coming up looking for the next project, or just want to see what new trees we've had in, or just, you know, if any of you have been to a good quality bonsai nursery or garden, it's just a nice place to be. People find it tranquil, relaxing. You know, customers spend 3 or 4 hours just walking around, just looking at the trees and coming and asking questions and just enjoying the place. You know, Bill has the same here. People coming over, a little bit different because he's kind of open by appointment. But yeah, we'll get several people coming up in the day that have travelled, and just to enjoy walking around the nursery. But I've had a few people recently, you know, since COVID, everything's gone up in price, and it's like, especially people with families with kids, it seems like you can't go anywhere, and wherever you go, you've got to spend money. You have to spend money to park, you have to spend money to get in. I've had a few people phoning up or email and saying, "Oh, what do you charge to get in?" I said, "No, it's free to get in. I'll just charge you to get out." And most of my regular customers know what that means.
Yeah.
That means you come in for free, but you're probably going to end up buying a tree.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that takes no pushing whatsoever.
I'm joking a bit, of course I am, but there's no high pressure sales. But you know, no bonsai enthusiast is going to go to a bonsai nursery
without wanting something
and walk out with nothing in the hand and without buying something. So that's good.
That's funny. You mentioned the YouTube. How's YouTube done for the nursery?
Well, we kind of, you know, I run a busy nursery, a busy schedule. It was really during COVID that the only thing that affected us really was that all the demos got cancelled, travel got cancelled, all the teaching got cancelled. We had a lockdown in the UK for like 6 weeks, so we had to shut. And during that time, we didn't think we'd be busy. Me and my brother thought we'd go to work at 8 o'clock in the morning, do the few internet orders, water the trees. The courier comes every day at 1:30, picks up the parcels, and then we thought once that's done, we'd perhaps go home and, you know, spend time with families and kids and dogs and whatever you want to do. But it didn't happen. We got really busy, but we had a bit more time on our hands because with less travelling, and for a while, lots of people had been asking us to begging us to do YouTube. I'll admit demonstrations don't bother me, chatting to people doesn't bother me. Being in front of a camera is surprisingly different.
It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah. Basically, during lockdown, I took on a member of staff, a guy called Josh, and he's like half my age and therefore more technically savvy. And I was working on a tree one day, and he was just sort of filming me out the corner of my eye over my shoulder with his iPhone. And then the next day, he's like, "Have a look at this," and he'd done like a 2.5 minute video, just put some audio over it, a bit of music and stuff, and just when we were working on a tree. And he's like, "Oh, I'm going to put it on YouTube." Oh, yeah, okay, whatever. And then a week later, he said, "Well, let's do a little demo." So we did a little demo, and first time he pointed a camera at me and switched it on, I just started giggling. I don't know why. I just thought it was amusing. And he's like, "Come on, behave yourself. Just try and be a bit more serious." Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, all right."
Oh, because bonsai is very serious.
Oh yeah. It's just it's weird. You know, you could do a demo in front of a couple hundred people, and it's more relaxing than doing it in front of a camera, because obviously you've got no feedback. You can't have a laugh and a joke with a camera. It's weird. Anyway, I'd like to say now, you know, we're probably 150 videos in after a couple of years.
Ooh.
And we're a real fast growing YouTube channel, and popular. I guess we're popular. I've been over here. Well, I've had the last 2 days people telling me that we're popular. You know, that they like what we do, and that's really good. We have a bit of a house style based on the way that I work and my attitude. And my attitude is efficiency. Yeah, I can't stand a video. I cannot stand a video, and I'm not. It's not necessarily a bonsai, but I can't stand any video where it's a 10-minute procedure but it's a 35-minute video.
Oh, that can be hard.
And I know some people kind of stretch the videos out a bit because they get more adverts and it's better for revenue, but I just find it really boring. So like our videos, if I've not picked my scissors up within 2 minutes, I've normally picked my scissors up within 2 minutes and started trimming stuff off. So short intros into the action, doing stuff. If I'm doing wiring and I find, I think it's kind of boring to watch, we might speed it up, we might cut a little bit out, but a lot of the demos are start to finish fairly unedited, and you see a tree take shape, and it's a 25-minute video. And Josh was laughing because we've been doing some recently, and we filmed it, and I've stopped, and then at the end I've said to him, "What's that? Was that about 18 minutes?" And he's like, "Yeah, 17 minutes 48 seconds. How did you manage to guess that?" And I was I just thought it would perhaps be about that. So we try and do videos like of a comfortable length and make stuff happen. Luckily I work fairly quickly. We're trying to cater for everyone. We have all sorts of weird requests and stuff, but we've done a few beginners videos, and then we do some specimen trees, but then you get people say, "Oh, I like your videos, but you're always working on big specimen trees." Well, I'm not. You don't do it to show off. You do it because that is what you do. That is my job. If you've been in bonsai for 35 years and you own a big bonsai nursery, if you're not working on specimen trees, then you'd be asking yourself the question, why am I not working on some of the best trees in the country? Yeah.
And a couple things stem from that, because if you work on the good trees, it's easy for viewers to say, well, that does me no good, I don't have big trees. Little do they know, it's the same exact technique.
Same technique.
But on the other hand, if you work on younger material, they say, well, you don't know what you're doing, you don't have these great specimens, and you lack the credibility without the
Correct.
great trees. So
initially, I
have yet to find the perfect balance to that one.
Well, yeah, there isn't. Initially, I started off doing a bit more specimen, because if you start doing too much beginners, people think, oh, this guy just does beginner stuff.
Right.
And then I dropped back and I did some beginners ones a little bit, and people like that, and intermediate ones. So you're quite right what you say. You see me working on a maple, and somebody like, oh, I'll never afford a tree like that. It's not the point. I'm not. You should just be glad you've seen it. You've seen it being worked on, and that tree, trimming a branch on a specimen maple. Like the technique of reducing internodes, cutting out bad structure, crossing branches, long twigs, bits that are growing out at strange angles. You can do. You'll do the same on a 5-year-old maple that you've spent like £20 on or something like that. So, so there's a little bit of that. We're always trying to look for new angles for videos. We've also got now it's been out there a while, the channel. We're revisiting stuff. Very important, because bonsai is never achieved in a 25-minute video. You can do an initial styling in a 25-minute video, and you might watch one and you think, yeah, that's nice, I like it, done a good job, and that's great. Yeah. But now we're fortunate enough, if we still own that tree, or even if it's a customer's tree. We did one the other year on a guy came up, he said, I've got a Japanese maple growing in my garden, think it might make a bonsai. What shall I do? I want you to help me with it. I said, dig it up, bring it up to me. Let me know when you're bringing it up. Dig it up the day before, just wrap it in a bin liner, roots and all, whatever you've got. Mm-hmm. Put it in your car, bring it up to me. So he brought it up like that, and I trimmed it and cut the roots back a little bit drastically, cut the top back fairly hard, and we did it as a video. And he took it away, and then a year and a half later, he phoned up and he said, oh, it's doing ever so well. Really well. Can I bring it back to you? Of course you can. Because not only do I want to see it, you guys want to see it.
That's right.
Yeah, and of course the first video, it was a lot of work, and it's not unusual for people like me to do that sort of work. Mm-hmm. So it's sort of bread and butter, and it's not a risk. But some beginners that watch that video, oh, you've done too much.
Yeah, that level of extent is one of the hardest things to convey.
Oh, I think you've killed that. And of course I'm thinking, well, I haven't killed it. I wouldn't have done it if it was going to kill it. Right. But if as a beginner, you might watch it and think, oh, blimey, it was a bit drastic. He got a power saw on it, he cut the top off it, he got a chainsaw out, he cut another bit off, and he cut the roots off. So then, but fast forward a year and a half, the guys brought it back up, So we've done a video, like a follow-up video, saying, look at this. This is all the growth it's put on. And then we've done like a second refinement. You know, in that, there was that tree, a dissector maple, and they can die back into the trunk if you take thick branches off. And there was a thick branch about 2.5 inches across. So on the first video, I've cut it back, and I wouldn't normally do this, but I left like a 3-inch stub. Yeah. So now when it came back a year and a half later, the stub's died off, and I've trimmed it back to the trunk, but it hasn't died back into the trunk at all. So I've cut it back and carved it, put wound sealant on it. So it just shows you, just a simple technique like that is beneficial. And hopefully that customer will keep bringing that tree back, and we can continue to feature it.
Yeah.
The trouble is, next time he brings it back, he's going to have to buy a bonsai pot for it. Yeah? So next time it comes back, it will cost a little bit of money, because he's going to have to. It's got the makings of a really nice tree, so it needs to go in we need to get it into a bonsai pot, and even trees that we've featured that are my own trees. When I say that, I maintain a collection of my own trees, maybe 150, 200 trees, specimen trees. That some of those were my father's trees before me, and now they're mine, and I look after them, and you'll see us going back to trees, seeing how they've progressed. And then sometimes we're just like, you know, the other week, it's just we'd got a few things just dotted around the nursery, and it was a nice sunny day, and we've not really got anything planned as such for a video. We've not got a lot of time to sort of plan anything. So I said to Josh, let's have a wander about, you know, because I've got people that watch the channel in other countries, and they've not been to the nursery. So let's have a wander about a bonsai nursery. We'll find something interesting, and you know, you just wander through and show people the new shop we're refurbishing and building bits on, and then, you know, what's in the studio? This is this tree, look, that's in here, we've been repotting that, and there's some trees here, look, we're putting those on the website, and a few shots around the benches. And it's weird, it's handy to do, you know. Someone will email and say, they'll send me a screenshot 7 minutes 12 seconds into that video. What was that tree over your right shoulder? Is that for sale? You know, and they'll send you a little screenshot with a little tree like ringed round, and you'll be like, yeah, that's for sale. Like, could I buy it? You know, so you don't do it I deliberately don't try and do videos as a sales thing. You know, but sometimes if we've got a new batch of trees come in and they're interesting, I'll do one as a demo and say, there's some on the website if you want to buy one. You know, it's no pressure. You know, but it just gives people a heads up. We've got some new stock, and they're like, that's nice. They've seen me work on a tree, and you know, they're there on the website if people do want to buy them, or if they want to come up. You know,
well, at some level, it's a really important part of the service that anyone in the community can benefit from, is when you can make material available to them.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're always trying to do. You know, is let people know when new material's in. Always hunting for new trees, part trained trees, fully trained trees, either importing them or buying trees in off people, or buying collections off people.
So what's it like getting supply? Do you have growers in the UK, and how's the importing working these days? It's all so different than over here.
Well, yeah, without getting too political, it's considerably more difficult because of Brexit.
Yeah, for sure.
Because before you used to be able to just drive to suppliers in Europe, buy trees, put them in the back of your van, drive them back to England, and that's now no longer possible.
Oh, not even with the right paperwork?
Yeah, but yes, but it takes 2 or 3 days to get the paperwork, so you can't drive.
So you have to go there, identify the material, then go through the process, then bring it back.
Yeah,
I understand.
So unless you want to just kick round,
unless you're there for a while,
Holland for 3 days, right. Fair enough. You can find stuff to keep you entertained for 3 days in Holland, wow. But you're not going to. From a business point of view, it's no good. So last year I went over to Holland to buy some trees, and as I have done countless times before, but it was the first time I've ever flown. Because there's no point driving, because you can't bring anything back. So you fly over, pick the trees, then they can all get assembled, they can all get certificates issued, inspections.
Oh, then you can get a broker that clear customs for you.
Well, then they get sent over on transport. Yeah. But the trouble is, it's a lot of paperwork. You can't do it for 2 or 3 trees. You know, you can't even do it for like one trolley of trees isn't effective. So you've got to be buying more quantity.
Oh gosh.
So you tend to buy more quantity, less often,
less frequently.
Yeah,
which is harder to run a business that way.
It is. It's worse for
a lot of reasons.
It's worse for cash flow, for instance, and you tend to then.
And just guessing what you need is hard too.
Guessing what you need, and if you're not careful, your benches are empty and then they're full.
Yes.
Then they're empty, then they're full, rather than just being like quite well stocked all the time.
Yeah.
So it's more challenging. It's not. It just makes you. It just makes you realise how seamless and easy it was before.
Do you have much supplier in the UK? Or less so?
Less so, I would say. Less so.
Do you buy from Asia at all?
I buy from various suppliers in the UK and throughout Europe, and in turn they're buying from Japan, Vietnam, Indonesia, China, Korea. Again, to get a broad, eclectic range of trees and species, you can't limit yourself to one avenue of importation.
Right.
Yeah, it's even people that do that and they buy from Japan, you'll end up with they'll just sell trees that are Japanese bonsai. Yeah. So that might exclude the cheaper end of the market.
Uh-huh.
It would, you're not going to come up and buy Scots pine because they don't grow Scots pines in Japan.
Yeah.
You're not going to find like a Yamadori hawthorn because they don't have them in Japan.
That's right.
So if you want to have a selection of trees, then they've got to come from a variety of places for the species, for the size, for the budget, all sorts of reasons. But one thing we do, I believe quite strongly in, is we work on the trees when they arrive. There's a lot of, a couple of other competitors, they might get a batch of trees in, and the work that they actually do is they put a price label on it.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't put any tree out till it's found itself across my bench in front of my scissors. We've had delivery before, turn up on a Thursday, and members of staff being like, right, come on, let's get prices on them, let's get them out on the bench for the weekend. Well, when you get a batch of trees turn up that you've hand selected, they arrive, that's like Christmas Day. So the last thing you want to do is just put everything out without having a look at it.
Right.
And enhance it, make it a better product. And I'm not saying it doesn't make it a little bit more money. I might spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes trimming a tree, and then it might go out for, £50 more than it was going to before.
Yeah,
right?
just moving it along.
So,
the next step.
but you're making a better product. So it might cost a little bit more, but the value is there. The quality is there. You're not selling it and it wants repotting. You're not selling it with a dead branch. You're not selling it where that branch wants trimming or wiring, or it's just out of shape. Especially it really bugs me, like with specimen trees. If you see a specimen tree that someone's saved up for, and can be often a valuable tree, but the pot's cracked or the pot's dirty or there's weeds on the surface of the soil, I think, that just riles me. I just don't like it. It's like saving your money up and being very lucky enough that you're going to go and buy a second-hand Bentley from somebody, and you turn up to this guy's house, nice house, beautiful car, but it looks like he's driven it across a field because he hasn't had it washed. The quality should be presented as quality.
Mm-hmm.
So specimen trees with weeds in, it drives me a little bit mad.
I don't keep up with any of my Bentleys.
You've got too many. It's difficult, isn't it? When you get too many,
hard.
You can't keep track. You have different colour ones, and then you'll know which, one for the Monday, one for Tuesday. That
Some
sort
look
of
better
thing.
on cloudy days,
And you can't get many trees in the boot.
It's another big problem.
You've got to switch to Shohin, haven't you?
Yeah.
You switch to Shohin, you're okay.
I just pull a flatbed behind it, yeah.
Well, a U-Haul trailer.
Yeah, U-Haul in a Bentley.
It's hard to get a tow bar for a Bentley nowadays, isn't it?
It's
a real world,
like it used to
first
be.
world problem, isn't it? Getting a tow bar fitted to your Bentley, so you can. Yeah, I don't think there's any bonsai artists turning up to. I didn't see any. I didn't see any Bentleys this weekend. Did you? A few pickup trucks. That was the order of the day,
There
wasn't it?
were some pickup trucks, some horse trailers.
Yeah, there's no.
a lot of rental cars.
None of us bonsai professionals were turning up in Bentleys with trailers on the back, were we?
Not this weekend.
Not
no.
this weekend, no.
Oh,
no.
man. What is the overall UK scene like? I've always been so curious because I guess because we can understand so easily and because England has a good long history of doing bonsai, that we're familiar with a lot of the professionals over here, and we've seen a lot of the work and a lot of the species. You mentioned the collected hawthorn, for instance, that are so well known from various parts of the UK, I assume.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious kind of how you would describe what the scene over there. It's not all like Mark and Ritter Cooper, for instance.
No, there's it's growing the last few years. There's been a bit of a upturn in bonsai, in horticulture and bonsai, probably because of COVID. Some of the clubs are struggling a little bit for numbers, but some that are quite proactive are doing quite well. There's a couple more shows coming on the scene, which is good. There's less bonsai businesses than there used to be, we used to do a show that I used to organise. I don't do it anymore, but I used to organise it for years, and I've probably got a cumulative list of 40 bonsai traders, and 30 of them don't exist anymore.
Wow.
For one reason or another. They've passed away or retired or just fizzled out.
It's not dissimilar here. It feels like there are fewer vendors and nurseries than there used to be by far, but there's way more interest in bonsai. It's very backwards from the way you'd want it to be.
You're always going to have a lot of vendors because it's a bigger country, so you might have 4 or 5 established traders in a state, and then the next state they'll have their 4 or 5.
Yeah.
We're right in the middle of England, so 2.5 hours will get you to, I don't know, let's say it must get you to 70% of the population.
Oh, it's got to be, yeah.
It gets you to the and because I'd like to think because of our reputation, well, I know that I get to work on a Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning or something. We open at 10, and there was somebody sitting down at the road at the gate, and they've just driven 2.5 hours. Mm-hmm. They've left at 7:30 to get there for 10 when we open. They want to walk around for 2 or 3 hours, have a look at the trees. Hopefully, might find something they like, and then drive home. So it's easier for our location to serve a greater amount of people, and of course nowadays you're also doing that through the internet, not just at the nursery. Yeah. So that makes it better. But again, that's difficult because we used to send trees all through Europe, which is now difficult to do. It's not really viable on a tree by tree basis. But the shows are increasing. The quality of trees increasing. We've always had a good reputation for bonsai pottery in the UK.
Definitely.
We can all just reel off a list of English bonsai potters, and it's no surprise when I come over to the US, you always try to bring a few bonsai pots because you like the Gordon Duffett pots and Walsall Studio ceramic pots and like old Derek Aspinall pots and things like that are very sought after. So over here, and on this visit, the ceramics, the bonsai pottery scene in the US has really, really upped its game in the last 10 years.
Super taking off right now.
Yeah, I think it had a dip maybe 10 years ago, and I think now it's definitely on an upsurgence with the quality of the pots this last weekend gone, and I managed to secure a few of them.
Excellent.
So we're taking them back home to England because they'll be, English pots are sought after here, and then I'm taking pots back over there that there'll only be a handful of them by that potter in the UK. So that's nice as well.
Which one? Do you remember which ones you were picking up?
Yeah, I bought a pot from Roy. Yeah, that was like a purple glaze, and I mentioned it to someone, said, "Oh, I saw that purple pot. It was beautiful. I saw it on Saturday morning." I said, "No, you didn't, because I bought it on Friday afternoon." So got it tucked out of the way, so I bought that and a couple of others. So it's nice to have something like that to take back, and it's you buy it as a memento of the trip. Often, don't you? Like small pots. People say, "What do you put in that?" I'm like, "Nothing. I just bought it because it was nice," Or somebody gifted you a pot, and you're just like, "Yeah, I remember that." I remember I went to that show and somebody, came up and gave me that little bonsai pot and stuff, and like it's like a ceramic postcard, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's what it's like. So.
So this is the weekend of the US National Show. Do you have some equivalent kind of big show that matters in the UK? Or just a series of regional shows?
If I was being polite, I'd say that every show matters, even when it starts off, because, whether it's regional or, little show, it gets people out there, gets people seeing trees.
Yep.
We have a Bonsai Expo show at Crawley. That's currently the biggest show in the UK. It's only a one-day show. It's on a Sunday. That's around April time. It kind of moved around a little bit, but I think it's settled into April now. And there's maybe, I don't know, get my numbers right. Maybe there's 150 trees on display or something like that, and there's might be 40 traders or something like that there. Okay. So we're there every year. Not the year before last, I exhibited a large tree. Last year I didn't really have room in the van. Hopefully I might exhibit a tree or two next year. I had to pause then to try and think what month of the year it is.
You're like, wait a minute, what do I have to do?
Yeah, because this year's gone so quickly. But yes, I'll try and exhibit a tree there next year, and that's good. Still the major show for us is the trophy show in Belgium.
And so is that harder to get trees in and out for that as well?
It's pretty impossible. It's a shame, because a few years ago
that's where I've seen English trees.
A few years ago there was 100, maybe 200 trees on display, and 42 of them were from the UK.
Yeah.
So as a tiny little country off the coast of Europe, we were really well represented.
Yes, yeah? You're hitting above your weight.
Yeah, it was good. I think last year there was 2 trees from the UK.
Well, that's why I mentioned Mark and Riddick, because I've met him in Japan and at the trophy, and they show really, really well wherever they go, and so they're just known worldwide as having these fantastic collections, and so.
No, they didn't have any trees there last year. A couple of people did, but they had to get certificates to get them in and out. It was a real nuisance.
Yeah, because if you need the paperwork in both directions, that would be such crazy.
It just delays everything.
Yeah,
it's a cost. Right. It's a delay, and it is a shame, because it's put us. It will undoubtedly stall bonsai in the UK. It has done. It has done already, because we've not been able to get trees out there. So people in the UK that want to exhibit trees, so that people are familiar with them, and it's a shame. I do an event every year. I've done a bonsai bash event at Greenwood for every year for the last 15 years. Sometimes it's normally it's often in September, because me and my brother took the business over in September, so we did it as like an anniversary event. And then sometimes we did another little one in May. So this year, obviously it's September now and I'm in the US. So this year we decided to do our bonsai bash early. We'd got something arranged for last September when I caught COVID, so I couldn't do the demonstrations. The event still went ahead, but I had to sit at home just not attending, which was a bit surreal. So what we did, we brought this year's September event forward. So we did it in May. And we had a really good attendance to that. Best ever. We attracted probably 3 or 4 times more people than usual.
Wow.
That's social media, it's YouTube, it's people watching videos, and then you say, look, we're doing this event, and it's people thinking, okay, they're 4 hours drive away, but they're doing this event. I've seen the bloke on YouTube, let's go over, see what's going off, doing a demonstration. It's just the same as being over here, doing a demonstration face to face. People are like, oh, I've watched your videos and I've never seen you in real life. I mean, it's massively disappointing to most people when they meet me, but it was still good. It's still good. It's still good to be over here. Well, people sort of said, oh, you look tall on your videos. I said, give it, and no, I definitely don't look tall on any video. Yeah, but in real life, I definitely am not tall. Yeah, so. I shoot with a wide-angle lens. That's what makes it worse, I think.
Oh, gosh. Oh, that's hilarious. Well, now I know the trick.
Well, the camera never lies, does it?
So I'll be curious. No, sadly, no. That's why we're doing this on air right now for both of our sakes.
This is why this you're not getting a picture.
Exactly. So we've not had the opportunities to import, and we don't have nearby countries from which to import easily in the U.S. And so it's always been more of a bootstrappy situation, or if we want something, we kind of have to make it and start from scratch.
Yeah.
And you're exactly right. That really held us back. I remember what European bonsai was like 25 years ago, and watching it just shoot up over the next 20 years was just surreal to watch. And it's not just the importation of trees, but it's just the general level of doing it at a high level. Just it encouraged more people to go into it as work, whether as a trader or as a professional, whether to go study in Japan. And just everyone just kept bumping up on each other's shoulders, and it was kind of incredible to watch. We're here, well, that tree we stuck in the ground 5 years ago, it's 5 now. You know, it just takes time.
It does. You know, you need... It's like bonsai societies. You need people that are keen, driven, ambitious, passionate, and they will drive everyone in that club to attain higher things. Yeah. You know, as club numbers suffer, you get less members. You know, there will be clubs where that sort of person doesn't exist as a member. Yeah. So then, you know, you can get into a situation of sort of sticks in pots, you know, sort of every year, you know, and it's not about...
We're trying to break away from that.
Yeah, it's not about, you know, trouble is often it's about money, isn't it? People having a budget. You know, so people say, well, I can't afford to buy a tree like that. You know, but there's options. There's budget-friendly options. There's collecting material, digging trees out your garden.
Yes.
You know, buying a tree for like £20, put it in the garden for 5 years, and dig it up. You know, you've probably got a tree that would cost you £150 if you were buying it as a bonsai. So. You know, it's easy to find the information out of how to do stuff like this now. I mean, you've got nurseries here, landscape nurseries, where you can buy like advanced nursery stock, and sometimes that's suitable. You've got amazing places that you can collect trees from. You know, obviously, you know, you've got to have permission to do it and all that sort of thing. But you know, if you know landowners, or you can find material. I mean. Over here at the show, the trees that I've enjoyed the most are trees that I don't see ordinarily. So, Douglas fir, the Colorado spruce, even the American larch. You know, I grow loads of larch, but the bark on the American larch isn't the same as the Japanese or European larch. Right. The foliage is different. You know, I've enjoyed seeing the examples, and the eastern white cedar. You know, that are coming out of Canada, bored cypress that are come, you know, from down south. You know, they're all things that I don't see.
Yeah, when I think of our show through your eyes, it's knowing the English landscape. What incredible diversity you get to see over here. Yeah. The character on the collected trees is outstanding. There's age,
the bark and the deadwood. You know, it's the deadwood on some of the trees in there.
There's a lot of deadwood this year.
You can tell that hasn't been carved by man.
Right.
That's just been made by nature, and it's just
over a lot of years.
It's perfection. It hasn't been adulterated. It's just there. It's just you know. It's just it was phenomenal to see. So they're the trees that I'll remember. And they're not easy trees, are they? I mean, I haven't worked with them, but you know, just looking from working with trees, even you know, Colorado blue spruce. You look at them, Douglas fir. It's coarse growth.
Yes.
You know, I mean, ponderosa pine. Could you pick a tree that had got longer needles? No, probably not. Yeah, but the movement of the bark, you know, you forgive it the long needles. Now, admittedly, it won't work as a small size tree, you know, but
over time,
you know,
they get there.
They reduce a little bit, yeah. But they're just, you know, they're never going to be a Japanese white pine.
Nope.
But you know, they don't have to be, yeah. So, but seeing trees like that, it's the same anywhere you travel. You know, there's countries I haven't travelled to yet with bonsai, you know, but you know, I know, you know nowadays from looking on the internet, you know, if you go to Australia or you go to South Africa or you go to Brazil, you know, they're working on trees that are native to them, and it's a whole new a new species, new genus of bonsai that you haven't stumbled across
new dimensions
before.
we haven't thought about.
You know,
you can see the trees in photos, but I remember visiting bonsai nurseries in India, and it's so eye-opening to just see different types of growth, different habits, different training techniques, and it just really makes you stop to think, because just nothing is familiar about it. It's very much bonsai, but it's just exciting and fun to see how different these forms can take.
We did we did a video on bald cypress the other year, and it's like, I don't know a lot about them. We don't work with them much, and there's guys over here that 90% of their collections are bald cypress, because they collect them, and
that's what
they're amazing, And I put the video out, and I was just surprised, and we had a lot of positive comments from people over here, and I thought they won't be that bothered, because you know more about them than I do, and there's people over here that they could teach me a few things about them. But the one we used has got a lot of movement to it. I was originally, I thought it was imported from China, but a lot of the ones here are quite straight, because it's naturally how they grow. And people are like, oh, that one there, it's awesome. It's because it's got movement to it, and it's got really good taper. Because often you've got to induce the taper in them by carving the top of them out.
For instance.
I don't know. I just thought it was interesting for me that people over here that know about them were like, that's a nice example. Because I didn't think it would, stack up that well.
Well, it's funny, because example.
I've seen ones here that the trunks are thicker and they're bigger and that whatever. But it's not all about that, maybe.
No, that's that whole thing where size gets mistaken for quality a lot of the time.
That's right. Yeah,
and when you have a stick in the pot, I can see why. But again, hearing you talk about bald cypress is funny. You might be closer to Russia than I am to the bald cypress. I mean, they're 2,000 miles away from me.
Well,
and it's weird to call it a native. It's like...
Yeah, so that's weird, because when I was over here driving somewhere with Bill, years ago when I was doing an apprenticeship, we drove somewhere, I don't know where we went. We went to a bonsai show somewhere, and it was like from Rochester, it was 1,000 miles or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he said, in England, if you left Nottingham, where would you be if you drove 1,000 miles? Like, you'd be in Moscow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I drove to a show the other year in Slovakia. And that's 1,000 miles from Nottingham.
I drive over 3,000 miles to come to this show when I drive.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Well, you're lucky that if you're in England, and you'd be paying like $12 a gallon.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
And then you wouldn't be driving 3,000 miles.
No one would be driving.
Because your Bentley doesn't do that much to the gallon either, does it?
No, Bentleys do well, but not that well.
You can only just afford to drive to the shops in England,
if you're lucky.
And that holds us back in bonsai, because there's a show on, and people are like, I'd go, but it's an hour away, or it's 2 hours away, and people won't travel.
Well, you have those wonderful train options as long as you're not bringing trees. You can't shop as well.
I don't know. We just have that. They're just for American tourists. Nobody in England uses them.
Oh, good point. That's why I'm familiar with the trains over there.
If you work in an office, you might get a train.
I was going to say the commuters. The commuters are all doing
commuters
it.
Are
I was going
it.
between Cambridge and London. And
lots
of solid commuters right
there. That's commuter belt, that is, isn't it? Yeah. But yeah, going to the shows and stuff, and travelling. It's a costly thing in England, so people won't do it as willingly as they do over here.
We're pretty nuts over here for that. It's not unusual, and actually in the Midwest I think they drive more than anywhere, but it's not unusual to do half day to a full day drive for a bonsai event, whether for the traders or the visitors or the exhibitors. Like that happens a lot.
Yeah, I mean, when I was here and then I went back to the UK and I'm driving around, I'd go and do a bonsai demo. And at a bonsai club, I get there at 6:30, 7 o'clock. Starts at 7:30. You're probably done by about 10 o'clock. It's a 2.5 hour drive home, and they were like, "Oh, are you staying somewhere local tonight?" Yeah, and I'm like, and I was like, "Yeah." So, you're going to do a bonsai demo, and get there at 6:30 or so. Start at 7:30. Wind up at 10 o'clock, load your van back up, 2.5 hour drive back, and people will be like, "Oh, you're staying somewhere local," or I'm like, "Well, no, just driving back." Yeah, and they're like, "Well, it's 2.5 hours." But after being over here, it was nothing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because I was like, well, that's nothing.
Yeah.
You know,
It may not be easy, it may not be fun, but it's kind of normal.
Yeah, I was driving Bill's car yesterday. It's what?
Uh-huh.
I don't know. 2 or 3 year old got 100,000 mile on it.
Uh-huh.
You know, in England,
that'd be hard to rack up.
You'd be needing to speak to your bank manager if you wanted to be driving that far. You know, but yeah, and it does hold some of these shows back. People will go to like the show that's close to them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean that show at Crawley. It's the best show to go to, but you know, it's right down on the south coast.
Oh.
So it's 4 hour drive from us.
Yeah.
So anyone further north, they're going to start thinking, you know, got to go down the day before, stay in a hotel, then drive back. And of course, you got to buy a couple of beers while you're there, haven't you? It's thirsty work, bonsai. We know that.
Oh, goodness knows.
You know.
We lose a whole day of travel even flying to come out to this show.
Right.
So, you know, I'll be leaving here at 7 to 9, and I'll get home around midnight.
Yeah.
And we lose a whole day because you lose the 3 hours coming to the show. So
yeah.
It's a 2-day event is a minimum 3.5 day trip.
Right. Yeah, that's a bit crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and when you do the drive, it's a minimum 11-day trip.
That's why I can't understand it when, you know, I've just flown over here and somebody said, I said I was going to be here, and somebody said, I'd go, but I live on the other side of the state. I was like, well, you know, it's 3,500 miles for me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but again, you could drive that, couldn't you?
Yeah.
To get to the show within the US.
Yeah.
And I've just flown it. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is funny.
But we do weird things for bonsai, don't we? You know, it's just, if you're into bonsai and you want to see the best trees, then you have to travel. You have to put yourself out there. You have to, you know, you have to go to shows. You have to, you know, it doesn't matter if you get back at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. You went to the show and participated.
And the funny thing is, the payoff is there. We keep doing it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Because that's good. You need people that will carry on doing it regardless, don't you?
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm curious about the trees. You talk about the compelling nature of trees. You've been doing bonsai for a long time. I've only been doing it 30 years. But I noticed that as kind of eras of my experience in bonsai change, I feel like I have a different relationship to bonsai, whether different species I appreciate or different characteristics in trees I look for or different techniques I'm interested in. But I notice it's not been a consistent relationship to bonsai the whole time for me, and I'm curious, has anything been particularly interesting or exciting or just grabbing your attention in bonsai? Like, what phase are you in right now?
I don't know about the last bit. Yeah, it's a learning curve, isn't it? So when you first start with trees, you're always learning. Yeah, if you decide you've learned it, then you
Please tell me how I should be doing this.
You haven't learned it, have you? Yeah. You've got to all be open-minded, and the trees are always going to throw up new challenges, whether it's weather or whether it's the weather, the climate, or the trees, or it's fallen off your bench, or something's happened. There's always something to do. I think the only thing I would say, I mean, I do bonsai as a business. It's a passion, but it's a business. Uh-huh. Okay, and I do. The main reason I keep a collection of specimen trees myself is to keep my enthusiasm there. You know, if I buy 1,000 Chinese elms and I have to trim my fair share of them, that isn't exciting to me. But once I've sold those 1,000 Chinese elms, I can buy some specimen trees and that I can look after, and that is exciting to me. Yeah.
Neat.
So, but if you don't, you've got to do the bread and butter stuff and the trimming. As far as trees and like your question about change of styles and things, I tend to hunt out trees that are a little bit different. So when I started building up a collection of trees, that's a nice Japanese maple, that's a nice one, and I've got quite a few, and now I'm particularly got a thing for cultivars of maples. So it's not good enough to just have a Japanese maple Acer palmatum. I want an Acer palmatum Sagan, I want an Acer palmatum de Shoujo, an Acer palmatum Ukon, Seryu, Katsura, Benishidori, Kotahime, Kiyahime, and on and on and on.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and then evergreens, got a few junipers, a few pines in my collection. pines aren't my favourite tree. I mean, don't get me wrong. I work with them, I style them, and I do own them. But just because they're fairly commonplace, I tend to prefer stuff that's a little bit different. Yeah, you know, evergreen wise, I like stuff that's a little bit on the fringe. If you said to me I could never grow a pine or a juniper again, I would say that's fine, as long as I can have hemlocks and cedars. Yeah. Now, by cedar I mean cedrus. Yeah. So Atlas cedar, cedar of Lebanon, Deodar cedar. Yeah. Cedrus brevifolia, because I know you guys over here call Thuya Eastern white cedar.
That's right.
Which confuses everybody, because botanically it's not a
cedar.
Confuses
us too. It's not even close
so,
to
cedar.
cedar.
So, and I think that's because, you know, you go to a show and you're like, oh, that's a nice juniper, that's a nice juniper, that's a nice pine. And there'll be some great trees there, and they are great trees, you know. But when's the last time you saw an Atlas cedar at a show? Or when did you go in and there was a hemlock there? You know, and I just think, and I think it's a little bit of a rarity thing, you know. So I'm a little bit into, you know, cars and 4x4s and stuff, right? You know, over here, you know, you're all into stuff like that. You go to a car show, you know there's going to be 24 Mustangs there and as many Corvettes, right?
Yep.
And they're nice. They're passionate people that own them. Yeah. They're great cars. But you're never going to go back home and say to your mate, oh, you never guess what was at that car show the other day? What did you see? And you'll be like, I saw a 1995 Mustang. You're like, yeah, whatever. Seen loads of them, right? But you might go and like, oh, there was a 1949 Jaguar, and they only made 3 of that model. And there's only 2 left in existence, and you never guess what, one of them was there.
And someone spent the last 20 years restoring
and the other one's in a museum, yeah? And this guy just rocked up with it, and it's like he only takes it out twice a year. You're going to go back and think, I was really lucky to see that.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's pretty much unique. Yeah, you're not going to stumble across another one. And I think it's a bit, that's how I would sort of look at my trees. I'd be like, you know, that's a stunning pine, that's a stunning juniper, but that's unusual. A root over rock, western hemlock. Yeah, just so you're looking for. I'm trying to trees that pique my interest now are trees that just have that sort of unique edge.
That's a good way of putting it, because I would say the same thing for cars, but it's a brilliant analogy, because I never would have thought of our common species as Mustangs or Corvettes. So I kind of like that. That really sums it up succinctly. But right, if someone's going to show up rocking something that you just don't normally see because it's rare, because it was lovingly cared for, because it's old and has character, that's what we're going to remember. That's what we're going to want to learn from. That's what we're going to be inspired by.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, you know, it's something that's like, you know, a unique tree. You know, it's like a custom motorcycle. It's not like you've ordered it from a catalogue, and there's another 200 guys riding the same one around. Yeah, you know, you put all the tassels you like on it, but it's still just the one out of the catalogue. Yeah, but when you've got a unique tree that's been collected, or you've shaped it yourself, you know, that's the same as a customised bike or whatever. It's just, you know, and that's why people get attached to them, I guess.
Production run of one.
You know, that's it. Yeah. You know, the only trouble is, you know, if you kill that one tree, you ain't finding another.
Move on to the next production model.
You're not finding, you know, it's not like smashing up your Mustang and thinking, oh, I really need a 2003 red Mustang, and I'll have a look on eBay and I'll pick another one up. Yeah. You can't do it with a tree,
on the other
can
hand,
you?
If your Mustang breaks down, it's pretty easy to find someone to help you fix it. When that one-off breaks down, you got to find some people with deep experience.
But it's worth the effort, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's worth the effort. You know, we're very lucky that bonsai's been around enough now that we've got, you know, there's a lot of good tutors, a lot of good mentors, there's a lot of information out there. It's easier than ever to take bonsai up as a hobby.
And people are progressing in it so much faster than they were 10, 20 years ago.
They should do,
really
because
awesome.
If you can learn and you can soak up information, the information is there to be soaked up. You know, so it's you know, back in the day, you know, you went to your local bonsai club. There's 15 people in there on every fourth Wednesday. You can only learn up to the standard of the guy who knows the most.
Well, and
right?
that brings it back full circle
and then,
because it was your dad's books that were literally the learning resource that people had.
Yeah, they were the YouTube before YouTube, weren't they?
That's right. And a lot of people, when I got started, go to the library to find a book on bonsai because that's kind of what you had to do. It's not like bookstores carried them.
Yeah, remember bookstores? You still have those?
Yeah.
Not so much.
I was a literature major, so yes, I agree.
Well, we were laughing the other day because when I do an intro course, I was talking about books. The oldest English book I've got is like a 1953 book that was written by the Japan Tourist Library, and it just 160 pages. It was one of a series of 15 books. There was one on Japanese calligraphy, tea ceremonies, architecture, and I guess they were kind of done to, so 53 people starting to fly around the world, transatlantic and whatever, and I think you could put, maybe you could send off for them in the mail or from the embassy or what tourist information, and they would just you couldn't read it and do bonsai from it.
Yeah.
But that was never its intention. Its intention was to give a snapshot into a brief bit of culture that you're not aware of.
Yep.
And that's exactly what it did. And that was 53. And then Yuji Yoshimura's book came out in 57. Mm-hmm. And that was like a Haynes manual, like a workshop manual. You could read that and you could go at it. You could start doing bonsai.
That's a surprisingly deep book.
And that's the book that my father bought. He would have learnt from. Obviously Bill started off with that book. Mm-hmm. And people say, is it still good? I'm like, yeah, it's out of date. It's written, how many years? What are we on? Like 60 years ago. Yeah. Not going to tell you what website to go on, what YouTube channels to watch, but it's telling you 200-year-old techniques written 60 years ago.
Right.
And we always laugh because it's called, for those of you that don't know, the early versions it was called The Japanese Art of Miniature Trees and Landscapes.
Yep.
Now, that's the only bonsai. It's one of a few bonsai books of that time that did not say bonsai on it. So, it's like writing a book about dogs and just calling it book about animals,
small four-legged
four legs
animals
with a waggy tail. You take them for a walk.
Yep.
And someone said, "Why don't you just call it the book about dogs?"
Because no one knows the word dogs.
And that's because that book, Yuji's book, was on a bookshelf in a bookshop. Mm-hmm. You're looking at the spine, and if it said bonsai on it, you're not picking it off the shelf because you don't know what bonsai were. And then there's another one that was called Dwarf Trees in the Japanese Mode. And then another one called
miniature dwarf trees.
Yeah, miniature dwarf. Yeah, basically.
I've got a bunch of these.
There's 4 or 5 books of that in the 50s and 60s. There, it seemed like you were allowed to write a book as long as you didn't mention bonsai. Yeah, which is just, it was like, it's crazy to me. It's like some underground movement or something. It's like,
And there were very few photos in those books. Some had a handful of black and white photos, but mostly line drawings.
Yeah, it's a wonder how anyone managed to get, how anyone ever managed to get enthusiastic by reading. They were very primitive.
Well, I remember my response the first time I visited this garden that we're in right now to see Bill's collection. When I thought back to what resources were available when he started these plants 40, 50, 60 years ago, it was just staggering that you could come up with such amazing, beautiful trees from such humble beginnings.
Well, Bill had got the horticultural side of it down, hadn't he?
Clearly.
Yeah, because he'd studied horticulture. Yeah. And then the artistic side of it, of course. And he was studying with Yuji Yoshimura and other people, and the sort of forefathers of bonsai. Yeah. I always say when I talk about Yuji's book, I always say to the students, "Oh, Yuji, he's like my Mr. Miyagi's dad." Yeah. So they try to they can understand that then. Yeah. But it surprised me, bonsai, that 10 years is a short space of time. Uh-huh. If you've got a tree and been working on it for 10 years, you've achieved quite a bit, and that's a short space of time. And there was trees in that show that are like, talking to one of the guys that owned one of the winning trees, and that was dug out of the wild 10 years ago, and now it's won an award at like the
big show.
In 10 years. A lot of hard work gone in. I don't doubt it. But that's pretty good to go from that tree just living in a bog in the wilderness somewhere to being a highly acclaimed tree at a show. And that hasn't, that's a collected tree. It's not a bought-in tree. Right. The guy's not mortgaged his house to buy it. Right. No doubt he's took time and effort to dig it up.
Yeah.
And to get it to survive and to transport it and to style it, and trials and tribulations along the way, and it's in a nice bonsai pot. But that is attainable to people.
Well, and you said the key when you mentioned 10 years is a short amount of time, and a lot of people don't want to start a project that takes more than 1 or 2 years. And you kind of want to say, do you plan to quit bonsai in 10 years? Like, most people end up doing bonsai a lot longer than they think they will.
That's right.
And so if you start those projects, you're going to end up with quite a collection if you keep investing in the trees.
Customers into bonsai, they're 70 or 80 year old, they're still starting projects.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yep.
Because they enjoy doing it.
That's why.
And if they're still around in 10 years, they're still going to have that tree.
Yep.
And be 10 years further down the line. The only better time than starting, the only thing you can do better than starting today was starting yesterday.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You'll just be a day older when you do start.
And not wait till tomorrow.
That's right.
Yeah, just, it's...
and that's where those beautiful trees come from. It's the result of those 10-year investments.
That's right.
And another 10 years, and another 10 years.
Yeah. Just when you think, you've got a tree and you think, oh, it's brilliant, it's doing really good. And then 10 years further down the line, you look back at it and think, I used to, I was dead pleased with that. And then you look back and you're like, it was okay. It was passable. But, you look back and think, well, look at it now.
Yeah.
The trunk's twice as thick. The nabari's more developed. The ramification on it, the structure's better. It's in a nicer pot. It's just, obviously... I think that's what has got to drive you on.
Well, and how much more fun to be in your shoes where you've got this large collection that actually came from family, and so
that's right.
You'll have memories of these trees, and they'll evoke people, they'll evoke activities. And
well, people say, "Oh, yeah, no, that tree. Would you sell it?" What's the point of selling a tree that's my father's? He's not around anymore, and when you sell that tree that you have some connection to, all you do when you sell it is get some money. All you can do with money is buy another tree that doesn't mean anything to you.
That's right.
Yeah. We had a tree come in recently which we will feature in a video, and it was a maple, Japanese maple. A guy bought it off my father 45 years ago. So pretty much the time the business started, like 78, and it was £5. Okay, and the guy's now 84, and he's like, I can't lift it, can't trim it, difficult, can't repot it myself. Used to have a friend help me, and it's now got too big, and would I buy it off him? I said, yeah. And I said, the good news is I'll double your money. How's that? Yeah, that wasn't good enough. But anyway, I bought it off him. Beautiful tree, and they gave me a load of photos with it, or digital photos, or photos he scanned in on a memory card. And I've got that tree bought in '78. I've got a photo of it when he bought it. 81, 84, 87, 92, 95, all the way through. It got better till 2010, when we had a really cold winter in England. It dropped a couple of branches, and it looked worse. He'll admit it, I'll admit it. And then in the last few years since then, it's kind of reinvented itself a little bit, and now needs a bit of tweaking to get it back to what it was. But how often do you buy a tree with 45 years worth of service history in photographic form? Yeah,
that's fantastic.
As an author, that's gold, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not like we can all do. This is a tree. This is what it was like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But I mean, the only other person that's got access to stuff like that is Bill.
Yes.
Because Bill's got trees
Bill's
here.
our best example of that.
Yeah.
There's a small number of collectors around the country. There's a woman in Portland, Oregon, who actually has, and I've seen the album. She kept photos of her trees from the time they were pretty much rooted cuttings over the next 40 or 50 years.
Right.
And those are some of the most highly sought after trees because they have this beautiful patina of age that they accrued over all those years.
But what amazes me is, there's some of the trees in Bill's book, he started off and it was like a tiny little twig.
Yeah.
I've thrown worse stuff out. You just think it would never make anything.
That's right.
But it's surprising what 50 years can make you.
I just saw he pointed out the parent tree for all of his Kotohime maples came from this one 5-foot tree. He made 5 air layers out of it, and they're probably 5 of the better Kotohime in the country.
That's right.
They came from that one over there.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
There's an Arakawa. Yeah.
Yes.
That you grow from cutting.
Garden tree.
And it's like been there 50 years. I've not seen one. I've not seen I've never seen one. I haven't seen one like that in Japan. I haven't seen one like that at an arboretum.
Yeah.
And it's planted next to Bill's garage.
Yep, this is the one that I know.
He's put some air layers on it last year. He said he put 100 air layers on it. And there's a couple of branches in his garage where he's thinned out some branches. Yeah. And I was joking with him yesterday, and I said, one of them branches, yeah, you ought to strip the bark off the top of it and steam it over and make you a new walking stick out of it. I said, because that would be proper cool to have a walking stick made, a rough bark walking stick made out of a 50-year-old branch off an Arakawa. I was like, oh, Bill, I said, you're going to have that, you know, for your next exhibition. I said, that's yeah. When you walk in there with that cane, that's going to make a statement. So you'll have to watch his space.
You heard people announcing this was his 100th show?
Yeah.
Talk about milestones.
That's a lot of shows. It's a lot of shows, isn't it?
Yes.
I used to be over here when I was studying here, when he did his bonsai symposium, over here, the Holiday Inn at Rochester, and I've been lucky or unlucky enough to help with the breakdown and the build up of that show probably about 5 times behind the scenes, and there's always the ups and downs, but yeah, it ran really well because
that was a unique program.
Yeah, because Bill had done it every year, so he knew where the tables were going, where this was going, how it was all set up, you know. And the trouble with a lot of these shows that move around, there's always a new committee organising them. Yeah. And they're always gonna. Often they make the same mistakes that we made in previous years, and it's just the consistency. When you're doing a show over many years like that, it
really helps.
It helps. It helps. You know, the presentation and the feel of the show, and makes it easier to put on. It's still a lot of work. Yeah. But at least you're not making the same mistakes every year. You get more in tune with it.
That's right. It's nice to cross those things off the list.
Yeah. I mean, we're lucky that with our events, the ones we do at the studio, you know, yeah, it's a lot of work, but you try and minimise it. You know, but when you're travelling away to shows, it's
kind of get what you get.
Yeah, it's more difficult. You'll always turn up when someone says, "Oh, have you got any 10-inch blue pots?" And you're like, "Yeah, I've got like 700 of them." And if you wanted one, you could have emailed me and I'd bring one. Yeah. But it's like, I've only got one van, yeah, and I've only got like 6 sales tables here, yeah, and you can't bring everything. But there's always something. You'll always forget something, and that one thing you forget, someone say, "Oh, I wanted one," and you just think, "Oh, I've got loads of them as well." Mm-hmm. There's always something you forget. You can't take everything. No, you can't take everything. You can't please everybody.
That comes with the territory.
You know, you try, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what we can do.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the try you gave chatting today. This was super fun.
Well, that's all right. It's no bother. The sun's starting to go in a little bit now, but it's been great sitting here chatting, and it's not the hardest day's work I've ever done.
Excellent. But where would you recommend people learn more about you? A website or YouTube channel?
Oh, well, my website is bonsai.co.uk, so that's a pretty easy one to find and remember. YouTube channel is Greenwood Bonsai Studio on YouTube. Just check us out on there. If you find a video with like a hairy looking bloke with a strange accent, then that's me. And check out those videos. And thanks for the little interview. It's been a good way to spend a bit of time this afternoon.
Yeah, everyone else is working hard in the workshop right now, and we decided to take a break. And
that's right.
I'm kind of glad we did. This was great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Corin. This was fantastic.
You. No bother. Take care.
The music on today's podcast is brought to you by the fine folks at Blue Dot Sessions. Check them out at www.sessions.blue.